Coach, maybe fair to say maybe the most challenging week of WCC games so far, just in terms of you got two top 75 teams, I think two top 60 teams, one at home, one on the road. Just how do you kind of approach the mindset of, you've got Santa Clara Thursday, and then you've got to turn right around and take on a borderline top 25 team in St. Mary's?
I think we just got to go in and do what we've been doing is have a couple good practices, understand what the game plan is, and I think we got to attack everyone the same. We've talked about our team not having much room for error, and if we're focused on the external things, then we're not very good. So we got two great opponents that are playing as good as anyone. Santa Clara just beat Gonzaga. St. Mary's hasn't lost in the WCC, and so it's gonna be a fun week.
Talk about on Saturday when you guys weren't hitting the threes, you went inside, you really kind of focused on playing the post. Santa Clara prevents a lot of that just with their size. Granted, their 2-point defense percentage isn't that great. Just how do you kind of adjust that knowing that there's not going to be as many lanes because they've got Tilly in there and they've got the ability to kind of double down into the post and force outside shots?
Yeah, they definitely have good size down there, but with us, I think the way we played most of that Portland game for about 8 minutes of the San Diego game, the beginning and end, we were getting multiple paint touches. Guys were playing inside out and playing unselfish, and I think we can get good twos and good threes no matter what if we just play the right way and play through multiple paint touches.
Most teams nowadays have pretty much 1 through 5 that can shoot. I think that's especially true with Santa Clara. The only guys I think subpar both hit threes against Gonzaga in that regard. How do you kind of prepare for a team knowing that you're going to have to probably play some 5-out defense and prepare for a team that any guy on the floor is a threat to hit a three at any time?
Well, the beauty of it is most of our practices are the same way. And so I think when you look at Santa Clara, they shoot a ton of threes. When especially in their wins, they are really knocking it down from three. But they're also the best 2-point percentage team in the conference. They're shooting about 60% from two in conference. And so we a little bit like us, we just got to make sure they're having to shoot overs and having to shoot contested. Like we can't give them any open looks. We can't have our rotations be off. And if they shoot over us, I like our chances.
What are these last couple weeks with the kind of the up and the roller coaster and the swings and the losses? What have they taught you about your coaching style and maybe about practices that you have?
Yeah, I think it's human nature. We're very, very upset last week, and there's a lot of emotion last week of us having to get better and fighting through a few things. But you look around the country, you look around the league, everyone's going to go through their ups and downs. The teams are going to have good weeks and bad weeks, and I'm just really proud of our team's resiliency and leadership that we address kind of the issues. I think we've worked on fixing them, and like I've said countless times to our team, it's not going to get better in a day. It's not going to be 100% in a day. But I think in the last 8 to 10 days, I think we've taken a step every day and getting better.
Seeing, thinking back to your first year in charge of Eastern, would you have handled maybe a stretch differently back then than you did this time?
I think there's a little more stability from me and understanding the big picture, but I think overall, you just got to find what the issues are, and if you try to fix everything at once, I think that makes it really tough. And I think one thing that I've been good about, I think my mentors were pretty good about this as well, is just making sure that we're attacking one or two things and controlling what we can control.
We've seen Nate obviously kind of lead in scoring the last couple of games and just kind of, obviously he's been playing well all year, but Coug fans are just kind of starting to notice now. What has he really brought to the court, and has he, maybe improved this month in something than gotten better this month than he did last month?
I think he's playing on both sides of the ball just a little steadier. I think he's always been a dynamic player. He can get to the paint whenever he wants. He's got the best touch around the rim of anyone I've coached and body control. But now you're starting to see him with a little bit more steady approach. I think the 8-to-1 assist to turnover ratio versus Portland shows that. And he's just starting to really get a little more comfortable. And as we see that, we'll start seeing more consistency.
You mentioned Nate being able to get to the paint, at will. He's not shooting it too well from deep, so it seems like teams are kind of keying in on him driving. But he's still able to get into the paint, still kind of finish pretty efficiently. How does he pull that off when that's kind of what teams are thinking he might do?
I think when you look at his baskets last game, obviously there was some where it was coming off a drag or it was kind of the first touch, but for the most part, he was getting off the ball and getting it back to him, and I think really not his fault earlier in the season. We weren't able to get the ball back to him because we couldn't flow after those second and third actions as well. But we're starting to see guys understand it. When he gets a ball in a second touch, he can get to the paint whenever he wants because we've got good movement. And you know what? As far as him shooting it, like, he's been putting in the work the last couple of weeks. He's put the work all year, and I think we'll start to see that come around.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that next. Like, how does he kind of add that to his game, and what does that progress look like for him right now?
I think just staying steady. Like, he's a good shooter. He's had weeks where he's hit 4 or 5 threes at above 50% during practice, and like he'll be just fine. He's a heck of a shooter, and I think when teams start to over-adjust and start thinking that he can't shoot, we'll see him make them pay.
Yeah. Is there a chance we see Isaiah back this weekend?
There might be. We're still waiting on a few things, but he's starting to make some progress back.
Given the tape from Gonzaga versus Oregon State, Gonzaga versus Santa Clara, I guess first, does that teach you anything about Santa Clara and what you might have to prepare for?
We better guard the three-point line. No, I think as far as just watching Santa Clara, they do an incredible job of playing in transition. They got a bunch of dynamic guards that can come off ball screens. And Sindek's one of the best player development coaches in the country. Just not player development, just best coaches in the country. And he's done a good job getting those guys to where they're at. A lot of guys that have been in the system for 2-3 years now. And I think it'll be a fun game. 2 teams that like to run, 2 teams that like to shoot it. Should be an interesting one.
What have been your impressions of the Beasley atmosphere the last couple of weeks, and what are you going to need from the fans on Saturday?
I just think as the season's gone on, now that students are back, it's gotten better and better every game, and got a good, loud, emotional crowd that's into it. So I'm just excited for this to keep growing, and I think on Saturday we'll have a pretty fun crowd with St. Mary's coming into town and everyone being back in town. I know MLK weekend there was some guys out of town, so excited for this weekend.